I'm asking the question, who's afraid of relativism? And I think that's a relevant question because in some ways we trot out the charge of relativism as everything that's wrong with postmodernism or postmodernity. And so if somebody wants to hold up kind of the nub of what's wrong with postmodernity, it's that it's relativistic. I'm convinced that we are very sloppy in how we use the term relativism and the way we throw around this charge as a criticism. And in particular, I think it's because when we say someone or something is relativist or relativistic, what we actually mean is anything goes. You know, there's no standards, there's no criteria, it's just complete subjectivism. I think that's a very imprecise way to use the word. And in a way, I'm trying to recover what I think is the more proper sense of the word, that is, something is relative when it is dependent on certain conditions, criteria, contexts, communities. And in that sense, if being relative means depending upon, means relative to a context and certain conditions, it turns out that that's bound up with the features of being a creature. That creaturehood is characterized by dependency, contextual conditions that shape how we know. That in a sense, we are relative to communities of practice that we are a part of. In some shocking sense even, the truth of the Christian faith is relative to the revelation of God in Christ and the contingency of that. So in many ways, I'm trying to both correct the way we use the charge of relativism, but also to kind of embrace it as a way to name what a properly creaturely theology might look like. So you could say the project is twofold. On the one hand, I want to invite us to be more precise in how we use the word relativism, how we throw that around as a charge, what it is that we're worried about when we talk about relativism. And in that sense, I think going through the hard work of reading figures like Wittgenstein and Rorty helps us to refine and be more careful about what we're saying when we talk about relativism. But the constructive and theological part of the project is that I actually think Christians should consider why relativism is not a bad way to describe what it means to be a creature. That the conditions of creaturehood, that we are finite, that we inhabit communities, that we are dependent upon others, that we are schooled in communities of practice that enable us to know. All of those features of creaturehood mean that our knowing and our believing and our confessing is relative to a lot of things. It's dependent upon the revelation of God in Christ, the contingency of that reality. So in that sense, relativism is not something for us to be scared of. In fact, it might be something for us to embrace. It might be a way to name what is a properly creaturely theology and epistemology.